I think in terms of like the book essentially saying, hey, this is like the rise of evil, and the movie being like, well, we don't want to see the rise of evil. We'll see two memories of evil.
Welcome back to the Breakroom. You asked and we answered our last Behind the Breakdown in 2024. Woo! As we look at our breakdowns for the Harry Potter films. I'm Erik Voss. With me today is Gina Ippolito.
I was gonna Avada Kedavra everyone again, but I feel like that would be overkill. So instead, Expelliarmus!
There you go. Wingardium Levi. Oh,
Santa! Santa's doing magic.
What are you doing here? So John is off for the holidays, or is he actually here under the cloak of invisibility with a Muffliato spell?
Who trusted that guy with one of the Deathly Hallows, huh?
John is a descendant of Ignotus Peverell.
Oh man.
So that
he's on a path to evil. I think we could agree on that.
Wow, that's a big leap. Is Harry Potter
James
agree. Potter on a path to evil too?
I think John would agree that if given one of the Deathly Hallows, he's turning immediately evil.
Wow. Even the Resurrection Stone, which just shows you like, I don't know, holograms, because they're not ghosts. They make it clear that they are not ghosts.
Yeah.
Maybe 4 ghosts. Look, we got chats open. We're on Twitch. We're on YouTube. Hit us with your questions, your super chats, whatever you have. We're going to take your questions, and I want to chat with you all about what you thought about these videos, your thoughts on whether tomatoes should be refrigerated.
Boy. Listen, you got two Jersey folks up in here, and if you Brits come at us for saying you should not refrigerate tomatoes, we're going to throw down.
It's going to explode in the chat right now. I'm just waiting for the delay. It's going to erupt. I know it. But yeah, we broke down Goblet of Fire, we broke down Order of the Phoenix, and we broke down Half-Blood Prince. All three of those videos are on the New Rockstars channel. I'm here with Gina, who did pretty much all of the research and writing for these scripts, found a ton of great stuff, reread the books, watched all the bonus features on these films, and really just became our in-house expert.
Eric's giving me much more credit than I deserve.
You deserve so much credit. These videos would not have happened without you, and we're just so grateful that you did these. But we have a lot of thoughts on this and a lot of takes, and if you disagreed with the take, except the tomato one, it was probably something I just, started tangenting on as we were shooting these. But, this being a Behind the Breakdown, we also just want to talk about our process of making these, because, there's always like weird things that happen as we're like shooting them, as we're researching them, as we're writing them, as they're being edited, that we just kind of discover that we want to share with you all. That's part of the reason why we do this.
As we get into it, thank you at Fest1524 for subbing on Twitch. You can, sub on Twitch. And also, if you're on YouTube and watching, don't forget to hit that subscribe, because we're almost close to 100K subscribers on YouTube.
And we're going to do something terrible to Evan if we get there.
The promises keep being made. I also wanted to, Grape Dog Moody in the Twitch chat had asked if we are going to be doing Deathly Hallows breakdown as a 2-in-1 or a separate breakdown per part. Eric, how are we approaching Deathly Hallows?
So Deathly Hallows was 2 films, and each film will have their own breakdown. So our breakdown of Deathly Hallows Part 1 from 2010 will be on the channel this Saturday, December 21st. And then our breakdown of Deathly Hallows Part 2, the 2011 film, will come out on Monday, December 30th. We wanted to try to get it on that Saturday, but people are going to be off for the holidays, but there'll be some people checking back into work on the 30th. So that's when
still, you got 2 more hours of Harry Potter breakdowns to look forward to over the holidays.
Least. Both of these will be over an hour. Yeah, there's a lot. And I think we want to try to do another one of these Behind the Breakdowns in the new year to kind of cover what you've found interesting in Deathly Hallows. We're not going to talk about Deathly Hallows that much in this stream right now. We will be talking about 4, 5, and 6. Movies that I think for a lot of people, when they look back on them, kind of blend together.
Yeah. Even in Office, we kept saying like, order of the which one was it?
Yeah, was this scene in this movie? Part of it is with movie 4, you had Mike Newell come in, new director taking over after Alfonso Cuarón in the third film.
The first Brit.
The first actual Brit to be directing these films. And then in movie 5, and then for all the movies thereafter, David Yates.
Yeah, and their styles are similar, and I think more so they sort of had a similar style, and then once you get into the Yates, they all blend together because he's the same director. He's doing it the same way. So that's why for me, the two that I always get confused in terms of the movies are Order of the Phoenix and Half-Blood Prince.
Yeah.
I get confused what happens and that's because they're similar. I think if you had Yates and then like a wild card, Guillermo del Toro maybe, who was rumored to have wanted to direct one of these, I think they would have been more easily defined. But yeah, from 5 on out, it's all Yates, even the Fantastic Beasts.
And I will say, despite some like gripes I have with some of the things David Yates does, he does a serviceable job for the final 4 films.
Yeah, listen, none of these movies is a stinker by any means.
No.
I mean, when we've done rewatch series, we've done Fantastic Four rewatch series, we've done X-Men rewatch series of all of those. And there's maybe a stinker in some of those, but Harry Potter, there's not a stinker. We just sort of nitpick a little bit, but you know, they're all still a good time.
I think we also have to talk about the impressive production, like hat trick they pulled off with this series, especially the later films. They cranked these out.
Yeah.
And they made pretty good movies out of them. Like, I think they understood that with these young actors, they couldn't just stretch this out forever and ever.
Yeah.
And within, starting with like, the third film, that was a summer 2004 release. The fourth film was a 2005 release, but in November. The fifth film, there was a bit of a break. It was that was a 2007, summer 2007. That was probably the longest gap in between. The sixth film you had that was summer 2009, and then the seventh and eighth, Hallows Part 1 and Part 2, came out back to back pretty much.
Yeah.
And they got that all shot and done and edited, and it's all pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, this was like 10 straight years of these 3 main characters' lives, and they made it happen faster than most streaming TV is shot now. Like once Severance comes out, I'm like, what was that, like 7, 8, 9 years ago that season 1 of Severance came out? If they could make a whole Harry Potter movie in the time that it takes you to shoot 2 seasons of Severance.
What do you think was a more difficult production? Now I'm like, this is a stupid question, but like,
I'll commit to it.
But Half-Blood Prince, adapting Half-Blood Prince to cinema versus a season of Stranger Things, because a season of Stranger Things seems to take 3 years.
Yeah. I mean, Stranger Things, it has like more, because there are even more kid actors. I would imagine that it's like harder to have them shoot and everything. But I just think like your TV show that is not 22 episodes long like they used to be, you should be able to get that shot and edited and out within a year. Like that's how we used to do it. Fall TV used to be a thing. They make procedurals that are like 25 episodes of Law & Order SVU, and they did that all from one fall to the next. So,
and don't tell me that the production value has gone up. Watch episodes of Lost. Yes, some of it's kind of goofy looking, but a lot of it looks really good. And they shot 22 episodes for at least the first 3 seasons of that show. 24 looks really good.
And
episodes of The West Wing look really good. And they got them written, and they got them shot, and they got them cut, and they got them released. Yeah. And I don't know what is going on in this industry.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, they also used to like pay a bigger group of writers.
I mean, that is what it is. They used to that is what it is. If you're wondering why, it's just that networks used to care about shows and put more money into it, and now streamers don't care and only want to invest the smallest amount of money possible.
We will pay you, one showrunner, all this money, and you can hire 2 other actors to do it, and then you have showrunners who are like, I could do it all by myself.
Yeah, even without cocaine, they're trying to do it.
Yeah. Anyway, we've kind of sidetracked, but Gina, I want to ask you, of these 3 films, 4, 5, 6, which one was like the best to revisit?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think of these three books, my favorite was Half-Blood Prince because it was the one that like delved into the mythology the most. I think like you've made the point that as Rowling went on writing them, the first sort of 3 or 4 felt like their own kind of thing, and then she tied in the lore in the last few. And Half-Blood Prince for me was like a big payoff of that because you saw all these flashbacks of young Voldemort, which was great. I love anytime we get into a villain's head and seeing him like grow from this tiny serial killer, which was essentially what everyone knew he was, to the most feared wizard ever, was cool. I think that the movie maybe didn't live up to that. So I'm going to say Order of the Phoenix, I think, was the most fun. Because a lot of those new characters, like I loved Tonks in Order of the Phoenix. And like just all those new weird characters that they introduced into that, and I loved Grimmauld Place and things like that. So yeah, I think the first Order of the Phoenix for me was the most fun to go back and see.
Yeah, I agree. Going into this rewatch series, in my head, Prisoner of Azkaban was my favorite film, and Half-Blood Prince was my favorite book, and Half-Blood Prince remains my favorite book, but Order of the Phoenix, I think, has aged the best.
Yeah.
I think it is the most well-rounded victory of all of these films in that it faithfully adapts, in my opinion, the Order of the Phoenix book, which is a huge challenge because it is the longest of the books.
Yeah.
And the cuts they made were smart cuts.
Right.
The way they improved upon stuff. The Battle of the Ministry is one of the best sequences, if not the best sequence in the entire series.
I agree. And even like the whole battle in the book is awesome, but then like once you get Dumbledore and Voldemort like dueling, none of that stuff is in the book. Like, I mean, some of it is, but like the way they realized it was so cool. Yeah. I also like that they left in, like the creature storyline, which you could like they wanted to leave out, and they had clearly sort of weren't happy with the look of Dobby in Chamber of Secrets. And I like that they were sort of talked back into including things that would eventually pay off. I think it was sort of the last one that was like really faithfully adapted to the book.
Yeah, I think Half-Blood Prince, going into it, because you were like a week ahead of me, you're like, wait till you see how much they cut. And I was like, right, they did cut a lot of the memories.
Yeah.
I actually liked Half-Blood Prince, the film. I still think the film is pretty good. It should not have cut so many Pensieve scenes. I don't mind the rom-com stuff as much in Half-Blood Prince.
Yeah, to me that one was the worst. Like, the movie is still good, but in terms of what the book promised, I think it was the worst adapted. Like I think in terms of like the book essentially saying, hey, this is like the rise of evil, and the movie being like, well, we don't want to see the rise of evil. We'll see 2 memories of evil.
Yeah.
I wanted to see them all.
Me too.
And I think that was the one where they sort of, the things that they cut hurt the most.
Agreed.
That's how I'll put it.
The memories, like that is... Half-Blood Prince should feel like the movie Spotlight a little bit. It should feel like an investigation of this figure, and you got to figure out, how do we get him? We need more sources. We need more sources. And just like following up on every lead, it should feel like a good investigation. It should feel like, All the President's Men, kind of a good journalistic investigation or historical archive nerdy story that also has all this cool stuff with like different potions and poisons and Pensieve goo and ink and all this cool like fluid imagery that the movie has. But really what hurts is in Act 3 of the movie, they cut the battle that happens at Hogwarts, which is such a cool like amuse-bouche for what comes in the Battle of Hogwarts and Deathly Hallows. There's all this cool shit that happens with the Death Eaters in Hogwarts that they just cut because they're like, we'll just save all that for the
I mean, I get it. Like, I think that they were clearly worried that the end of Deathly Hallows would feel like a retread if it was like a but it was like, there's all of this cool stuff of like Ginny, Hermione, and Ron taking a little bit of the Felix Felicis potion so that like none of the curses hit them. And there's like Harry seeing bodies and he's not sure who's who and who's a good guy and who's a bad guy and whose body is that, and like Bill Weasley getting introduced and getting mauled and all of this like crazy stuff. For me, like I really wanted to see the House of Gaunt stuff. I wanted to see Voldemort's grandparents, which I like his grandfather and his uncle, which I think serves a couple of purposes, but also serves to be like, hey, look, this like pure blood fanaticism. First of all, Voldemort is not a pure blood. His father was a Muggle. Second of all, like you have the epitome of pure blood wizards, and they're all inbred to hell.
Yep.
And like crazy and dumb and like just these sad figures. And I think that like learning all of that stuff is what finally allows Harry to get into Voldemort's head, even though he's constantly like doubting himself, and he's like, I'm just Harry Potter. I don't have all of these. Like he finally understands it, which is all Dumbledore wanted. Like I just think like we need to understand Voldemort so Harry can understand Voldemort, and that is what I missed the most.
Yeah, the Half-Blood Prince movie depicts Voldemort as like this clearly, transparently evil child who is torturing animals, and there are those signs, even worse signs in the book. But he is a far more complex figure, and they miss out the whole chapter of Tom Riddle after he leaves Hogwarts and works in Borgin Burke, and he's like a collector of antiquities, and like he talks to Hepzibah Smith and like talks to his uncle that summer and gets the ring back, and then there's all this cool stuff that like we just learned so little about Tom Riddle in the Half-Blood Prince film, and I think
and also he's depicted as this cult leader who inspires fear and loyalty. And when we meet him and he's just like a noseless freak, it's sort of like, whoa, like what, who's following this weirdo? But when you see him and he's young and he's growing up and you see how charming he is, like with Hepzibah Smith, who's like clearly besotted with him and you know, like puts on her finery and tells her house elf to make sweets and things like that. Like everyone is so clearly taken in by this guy, which is why it's so impressive that Dumbledore never was. And I think seeing him as this I mean, they very smartly cast Ralph Fiennes, who is, even when he's playing the most despicable characters, the most charming man alive. So you get a little bit of that. But to see him, like to see any cult leader, you want to see where they start and why people are like, yes, I would follow this man to my death.
Jesus, John.
John really wants to talk.
Yeah.
I don't know what fell.
Neither do I.
One of Zach's pens.
One of Zach's pens.
One of Zach's giant pens.
One-shot box.
I don't know. It sounds like Voldemort is really pissed with how we're categorizing him here.
Yeah, I think, honestly, I have to say that movie 4 was the worst adapted, but it had the most difficult task. That book was just written with so many different subplots that don't always thematically connect. And Cloves just didn't find a good way into the book to turn it into a film. And I would say that book, of the 7 books that Rowling wrote, might be the most unadaptable and will benefit the most from when HBO adapts it into an 8 or 10 episode arc on a series. Yeah,
I think that and Half-Blood Prince tonally in terms of movies miss the mark. Like, and I think that like because Goblet of Fire was like, well, we want this adventure, but also there's this other stuff going on. So the first like quarter of the movie feels like a different part than the last half. And then in Half-Blood Prince, they were like, what if it's about the rise of evil and a romantic comedy?
Very diametrically
like tonally, they just need to they need to have some more tone meetings.
Yeah.
Evan jumping in to say, we want to thank one of our sponsors, Mando. You know, Zach isn't here to sing their praises, but I am. And as a proud Mando user, I gotta say, this stuff really works. Like, it really does. Mando is a whole body deodorant, and when we say whole body, we mean whole body. They asked us to start with a question that's a little not safe for work, but see if you can follow this metaphor instead. If your baseballs smell like foul balls, Mando has deodorant for you. And if you got a problem with that metaphor, take it up with Berg. Mando's whole body deodorant comes in 3 forms: invisible spray, solid stick, and invisible cream. It's clinically proven 72-hour odor control, so it's perfect for long days at the game or at the bar, or if you're like me, running around town and no time to take a break. You really do smell good all day because it stops odor before it starts, and it's safe to use on your entire body, pits, package, feet, and everywhere in between. Mando comes in 4 cologne quality scents: bourbon leather, Mount Fuji, Pro Sport, and Clover Woods. I'm a solid stick bourbon leather on the pits armpits kind of person myself, but you can choose whatever good smell you like to cover up your stinkiest area. Mando Starter Pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. New customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code BREAKROOM at shopmando.com, shopmando.com. Support our show and let them know we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. Should we get into some questions?
Yeah.
Got a lot of questions
Hit us with
stacking
those
up
questions.
here. A lot of questions about the upcoming series and thoughts on that. So we'll save some of that towards the end of today's episode. Let's keep these focused on the films and the books for now in our breakdowns. First question from Sarah Hatchadorian, regular Twitch viewer, also sending in a super chat today. Were there any details that one of you noticed that the other didn't that really stuck out or surprised the other when it was brought up?
We had a conversation just because I suddenly, during the research on this, when I was going through the script and the research for Half-Blood Prince, I was fascinated by the timeline of the creation of the Horcruxes. Because that is something that the books kind of give you pieces of.
Yeah.
But they don't always give you dates. But like through Rowling's interviews, through Pottermore, through Leaky Cauldron, through all these other places, they were able to kind of like piece it together. And at some point when I was like doing a pass on the Half-Blood Prince script, I came in here and talked to you and Brandon, and I was like, wait, so like Voldemort created the first Horcrux with the diary with Moaning Myrtle?
Yeah,
Like,
which I hadn't realized or even thought of, like, put together.
I hadn't initially, and then when I was looking at it, I was like, oh wait, no, that is the understood. Like, he intentionally created a Horcrux, and I guess the question is, when he was that young, because this would have been in his like 5th year, I think.
Yeah.
Either his 5th or his 6th year. He like he was a prefect at that point, so it might have been 6th
head
year.
boy. Yeah.
He like used the basilisk to kill this girl, Myrtle Warren, I think is her name, and she died, and she became like her death is what turned the diary into a Horcrux. And so I guess the question is, was it intentional or unintentional? Had Tom started to look into Horcrux magic and he's like, what if, or is it just like when you kill someone, if you have that much hate in your heart, sometimes it can accidentally create a nearby Horcrux.
Yeah. And would that, like, how does that even count since it's the basilisk that did the actual killing? Like, how did he split his soul? I would love for the new show to spend an entire season on just like, here's the Horcruxes, here's how he created each of them. Just like a whole flashback season of him finding out about the Horcruxes and creating them, because to me that's like one of the things that you can that the writers of the show can add on.
Yes.
That there was never a definitive answer for.
Yes, and Rowling did not. You got to give her credit because she did do a lot of great world building, but there's a lot of stuff that she didn't have answers for.
Yeah.
And one of them was like the exact timeline of when each Horcrux was created and some logic to that. So the example that I brought up in the breakdown for the 6th one is the fact that Tom Riddle got the locket and Hufflepuff's cup from Hepzibah Smith's collection.
Yes.
He created the locket first before the cup.
Yeah.
He created the locket Horcrux first by killing some Muggle tramp. And then he created the cup by killing Hepzibah Smith. If he got them both from Hepzibah Smith, does that mean he went out somewhere, killed some Muggle tramp, and then came back and had a second conversation with Hepzibah Smith, or a third or fourth,
that
and then
is
used her then?
interesting.
It implied that he had some kind of like ongoing relationship with Hepzibah Smith that we didn't see.
They do talk about that in the book, that like he had visited her many times, and that's why she's like eagerly waiting
Yes.
for it. But that last visit to her and then her turning up dead happened very fast.
Right.
I think it was like a matter of like maybe a week or something, and then he blamed her house elf Hoki, who like thought she had accidentally poisoned her mistress's tea. But yeah, there was a very tight timeline where Hepzibah Smith was like, oh, look at this, I've got a locket and a cup. And then like he killed her and they were both gone. So that timeline doesn't really make sense.
It's a little fuzzy, and I'm sure a lot of people will be like, well, then he just killed Hepzibah Smith first and then killed the Muggle tramp. But then it would be like, the order is a little weird because the locket is important to him and his family. It belonged to his mother.
Right.
And then the cup he only chooses out of significance to the houses of Hogwarts. So I think really what was happening is this is just a period in his life where he had his eyes on a few different relics and talismans, including the locket, which also belonged to Salazar Slytherin. So he just really had 3 items and tokens that represented 3 different founders of the houses, Salazar, Helga, and Rowena. And Rowena's diadem was this lost diadem that he had to go talk to the Grey Lady, Helena, about, like, where is it? And Helena's like, I put it in a tree in Albania.
And he's like, I love Albania.
Oh, everyone loves
Hell
Albania.
Yeah, I've been
Let's
there so
go.
many times.
So, but he never chose anything from Gryffindor because he hated Gryffindor.
No, he wanted the sword.
Well, he wanted the sword,
but Dumbledore knew to protect it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Do you think had he gotten his hands on it, would he have been able to turn it into a Horcrux?
That's a good question because out of those relics, it seems like that's the only one that's like, you're not gonna touch me.
Slip through your fingers.
Yeah, the sword is like, who are you? I'm going to someone else who deserves me.
Yeah.
So he
Somewhere
probably
there's a
would've...
Gryffindor that needs to open a bag of Doritos. Yeah. So that was one thing that surprised me going back. I thought I understood Horcruxes pretty clearly, and I didn't realize that there's like some weird question. Also, just like the timeline weirdness of the fact that there was a period where Voldemort always wanted to create 7 Horcruxes, but then after creating the 5th one. Well, we wanted to create split his soul into 7 pieces.
Yeah.
So create 6 Horcruxes with himself being the 7th. After creating the diadem, he went a long time of maybe he tried to create other ones and it didn't work or something like that, or he didn't find an object that he liked well enough. And then in 1981, kills the Potter's son because of this prophecy. Didn't realize he created another Horcrux. And then his body, he becomes disembodied, goes out to Albania, and then in 1994, Wormtail and Bertha Jorkins show up in Albania, and then he kills Bertha Jorkins to create Nagini, but that was 2 years after the diary was destroyed, so he never really
and that was
completed
also like that was sort of like out of necessity because he was like getting paranoid at that point. But like I think he got pickier as he went on. Like I think the first couple he was like, hey, Horcrux, cool, and then by the time he like gets later, he's like, I want to kill the Potters and make a Horcrux. When I kill that baby, I want a baby Horcrux. And like I think that because he was going to use their death to make the next one. But the first few, he was just like shooting his Horcrux load wherever it fell.
And I think it's a cool reflection of how Tom Riddle / Voldemort was a little sloppy. Like he was desperate. He was like, yes, during the first Wizarding War, he was at the height of his power and pretty effective. But even at that, like the more he started to create Horcruxes, even after creating the diadem, didn't have the firmest grasp on his own soul. Yeah. And so he kind of, I feel like, lost track of how many he had created. He just knew that he went further than anyone else in history. Yeah.
Well, to me, that's one of the interesting things that we see when we see his backstory. You see all of the mistakes that he made. Yeah. Whereas, like the further along the books go, you see how many plans Dumbledore laid out and how bad Voldemort was at like laying down plans, because like he, for instance, like taking Kreacher into the cave to place the locket and then leaving Kreacher there without ever considering that Kreacher might be able to get out of that cave and tell the story, which is what allowed Regulus to steal the locket. Like he never considered that Kreacher would be able to apparate from the cave, for instance. And he didn't realize how many Horcruxes he created. He never intended to make Harry a Horcrux and didn't realize it until he killed him in the end. So it's like he made so many mistakes, whereas almost all of Dumbledore's plans came to fruition, proving that Dumbledore was the superior wizard all along.
That's right. Okay, so what I'm saying is that after he got the cup from her and obtained it from her, he kept going back and then at some point killed her. And that's what's weird. He went to create a locket and he had what he wanted from her. And even after he acquired that treasure, went back to her and had that shared interest in her enough to kill her, or maybe to cover his tracks. Either way, there's a story there that the book kind of goes into.
Yeah.
But there's more there when it comes to the creation of the Horcrux.
HBasso13 saying, have you all seen any deleted scenes or anything that fit in well, or you're glad that got removed? So anything that you would have liked to see included, or anything you're like, okay, I know why they got rid of it when you're watching the feature.
Yeah. I mean, there were a lot of deleted scenes. I think we watched them all. Some of them we include in the breakdown, like, hey, there was a deleted scene here or whatever. But yeah, I think like, God, there was like just something that I was thinking of. You know what? I think as the movies go on, they explain less from the books. So for instance, like the fact that like this was such a cool bit of writing, the fact that in I guess this is we're delving into Deathly Hallows Part 1 here, but this was like in the book there was a whole thing about how the name Voldemort, they put a taboo on it because the only ones brave enough to speak it were the members of the Order, were Harry. So there was basically a taboo jinx put on it that anyone who said the name Voldemort, the Death Eaters would be alerted immediately and they would find them immediately. And they never say that in the film. And there was a deleted scene where Ron specifically says there's a taboo jinx on that. And so the movie is like a little bit strange because Harry, who's been calling Voldemort by his name for 6 movies now, all of a sudden like starts calling him He Who Must Not Be Named, and everyone's like, what? Why? Like, and how did they find him so fast at the cafe? And it's never explained. I would have loved for them to keep that like 30-second scene in, just for the sake of like, hey, if you didn't read the book and this is a thing you're confused about, like maybe this explains it. Yeah.
A justifiably cut scene is probably the one from Goblet of Fire where the Hogwarts kids sing their stupid house song. Hoggy, hoggy, hoggy.
Oh my God. And my favorite detail about that was like, so in Goblet of Fire, each school gets their own introduction, and like Bo-Batan is doing a lovely dance, and Durmstrang does all this cool, like staff work and gymnastics. And then the Hogwarts kids sang the lamest, like Hogwarts, Hogwarts, Hoggy Morty, Hogwarts. And Daniel Radcliffe was like, wow, this is so lame. Like he was so upset that the other schools got such a cool intro. They ended up deleting that scene, and watching it, you're like, ooh, but it's also a very Dumbledore thing to be like, those other schools are going to try and impress us. I'm going to make us look dumb.
Yeah.
In the vein of deleted scenes, Alistair410 sharing some compliments, saying it has been a pleasure watching these breakdowns so far. It's clear that you both really love the IP and that comes through in your considerate and thorough approach to each breakdown. It feels like hanging out with friends and nerding about the stuff we love. And added their question, what do you think about Harry Potter 1 and 2 films if they had extended editions where they just spliced in deleted scenes? Anything like that would, you know? And inversely, I guess you could, once a series comes out, however well it is or well executed or whatever, you could also probably make the case that someone could do a 3-hour cut down of that and make that one movie.
Yeah, I think the first 2 films actually are like the most book accurate, and they had sort of the fewest deleted scenes because of that. I think because Chris Columbus was so set on what he wanted in there, what he wanted included. I think like the later films are the ones that have the most cut in. Like for instance, like Chamber of Secrets, which is one of the shortest books, had the longest running time. So I think in the first 2 films he left in a ton. But yeah, I always love an extended edition where they include everything. I think the last few movies, especially with the Battle of Hogwarts, there was a ton of stuff that they ended up cutting just for time.
And a bunch of stuff that they added weirdly to the Battle of Hogwarts. We have now wrapped on our final 2 breakdowns of the series, Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Part 2, as of this morning. And I will say, I really do like both of those films quite a bit.
Yeah, same.
There's certain things that they added to the Battle of Hogwarts, I think, just to try to like
amp up the action.
And they do that in part 1 too. The whole like foot chase through the woods with Scabier and the Snatchers is like, why Harry can take all these guys. Harry just hide behind a tree and be like, Sectum Sempra. Like, you can take these guys suck. Fenrir Greyback hasn't done anything useful in any of these movies. I think you'll be okay. Just hide in some. You have an invisibility cloak. You gotta stand in the middle of the trees.
Yeah, you just took on Death Eaters at the Ministry of Magic. There were like 20 of them. There's like 3 of these Snatchers. Why are you running?
I was never afraid of the Snatchers. In the book, it's like they can't take him because literally they
come
say
out of
Voldemort.
nowhere. Yeah.
He's like, we got 12 wands aimed at you if any of you move. And in that case, I get it.
Yeah, and they come out of nowhere. Yeah.
But in the movie, they surprise the Snatchers as much as the Snatchers surprise them. They're kind of like, hey, what? And in that moment, he could have been like...
I think these last two films, like the original cut, if it had been one film, was around 5 hours long. And so that was why they split them up into two. But they're very uneven. Like they put most of the book in the first one and only like 200 pages in the second one. And so I think ultimately it ends up being a little bit uneven. And in the book, like that final confrontation with Harry and Voldemort is very fast.
Yeah, it's just one conversation.
It's like a conversation where they're just sort of circling each other and talking. And when you're reading the book, it's riveting. But in a movie, especially like, a movie maybe with like child actors in it, just two people talking for 10 minutes is not going to be that interesting.
Yeah. Now, what they end up doing is they have this fairly interesting duel between Harry and Voldemort, first on the steps as Nagini's coming up behind him, and I like that part of it. And then it goes up to this upper level where Kingsley and Arthur were previously, and Voldemort's like, eat my robes. And he uses his robes, and then somebody's just like, God damn it. And he starts slapping Harry around.
Yeah. And like just resorting to fisticuffs. Listen, one of my first writing jobs in LA, I wrote these things called honest trailers, where we had like a trailer announcer for Defy Media, and I wrote honest trailers. They're great. I wrote the Harry Potter honest trailer. So this is the second time that I've been paid to read and rewatch all Harry Potters and write stuff. And I included a line in that honest trailer, which was like, witness the fights in the last Harry Potter movie that would be a lot more exciting with lightsabers, because it is a lot of like, and then the lights like connecting, and then them just sort of like, and we extended it in the, and I mean, when you don't have an active thing, like the wand dueling is sort of active, but it's not, it's a lot of like firing a spell, deflecting a spell, firing a spell, deflecting a spell. So when you have something that's like Harry and Voldemort fire a spell at the same time, their wands connect, it rebounds and it kills Voldemort, and that's like the whole thing. You got to figure out a way for them to get some licks in.
That's why I think the Battle of the Ministry between Voldemort and Dumbledore is so great.
Yeah,
it's because they end up moving past the wands and start using other things around them.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah,
it's like the wizard duel with Doctor Strange and Thanos and Infinity War. Very cool wizard duel. I think they try to do that with Deathly Hallows, like, eat my robes, and then smacks, and then Harry basically throws his arms around him and throws them both over, and they start flying randomly around Hogwarts. Their faces get smushed together. It makes no logical sense they're doing.
I was on the edge of my seat though. Like,
me too.
Like
me too.
Truly. They didn't have as much to work with in the book because it's not like, oh, we're taking out swords and you're getting a wound. It's literally just like, they connect wands, and then he's dead.
A pitch, like, Harry could demonstrate his quick thinking and magic abilities in this fight. What if there's a Levicorpus, there's a Wingardium Leviosa,
go through all the DA, the Dumbledore's army spells that he taught everyone.
He uses
fire
his
your Patronus at him.
Like, basically, emit your Patronus that fights Nagini. And they're fighting. The animals are fighting. While the wizards... There's none of these are great ideas. I'm just saying that there's, like, another way you could do this than what we got. And that's what I'm looking forward to, season 7 of the show, and it comes out in 2038. But yes, very silly. We're not there yet.
Yeah. Everybody in the chat freaking out that Gina used to write for honest trailers.
There you go. All that Harry Potter and Twilight honest trailers. They're my claims to fame.
Gina's digital media lore.
We also want to thank one of our other sponsors today, True Classic, who makes comfortable, good-looking clothes more affordable than ever. And December is the perfect month to check them out. True Classic sells t-shirts, hoodies, and jeans that are perfect additions to any wardrobe. They're super soft and super comfortable and perfect for cozy winter layering. True Classic offers a ton of bundles and multi-pack options. If you find something you like, it's easy to double down and get your wardrobe that much more dialed in. The holidays are here, and True Classic's ultra-comfortable, perfect-fitting essentials make for the perfect gift for you and anyone in your life. So if you're ready to upgrade your closet, shop now and unlock big savings during their huge holiday sale. Just go to use our exclusive link at trueclassic.com/breakroom to save. That's trueclassic.com/breakroom. Support our show and let them know we sent you. End the year with some holiday cheer thanks to True Classic. classic. And lastly, today we want to thank our sponsor Via, makers of premium federally legal cannabis products. This holiday season, unwind and recharge with Via. Whether you're enjoying a quiet evening at home or embracing the festive cheer, Via's premium THC and THC-free gummies will help you find your perfect holiday balance. I, for one, am looking forward to treating myself to an Elevate gummy and burrowing into a bowl of my favorite holiday food. All of Via's products are grown indoors and in state-of-the-art facilities and harvested at peak THCA levels to emphasize a natural aroma and flavor. They add strains to their selection every week, so there's always something new to check out. Via has THC and THC-free gummies, vapes, topicals, and drops, all of which are crafted with the highest quality hemp sourced from trusted, independently owned American farms. Plus, Via legally ships to nearly all states in the U.S. in discreet packaging directly to your door with a worry-free guarantee, no medical card required. This holiday season, gift yourself some peace of mind. If you're 21 and over, check out the link to Via in our description. For a limited time during the holidays, Via is offering 25% off site-wide, plus up to 50% off select items and bundle. If you're hearing this ad post-sale, you can still save by using code BREAKROOM for 25% off. After you purchase, they ask you where you heard about them. Let them know we sent you. Support our show this holiday season and enhance your everyday with Via.
Ryan Painter asking, I would love to know like a breakdown of time spent doing each part of a breakdown. Is it like 40% of the time researching, the 30% writing, 30% filming? What do you guys think? I feel like it's 10% filming, right? It's the editing.
Filming is the fastest. I mean, I say that not to belittle.
It's an hour,
but
which is long.
But compared to everything else, yeah, the filming these breakdowns every week has. I did not account for that when we embarked on this. I was like, let's make them as dense as we can, and then just shooting them taking sometimes 2 hours.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, if I mispronounce something, I'm like, guys, it's just like
his brain's tired.
Me and a very patient studio tech, often Dashiell behind the camera, who's just like, it's like 6:30. We all want to go home, and I'm like, just 20 more minutes, and I'm just so tired. And like, yeah, I'll say like Dumbledore instead of Dumbledore, and like, yeah, I think you gotta forgive that. But it is exhausting. So multiply that times everything else. It also takes a long time to review the videos. Normally there's a QC process where we review them. That takes extra long.
Yeah, I'm sure the editors spend a ton of time on it. Like for my part, I did reread each of the books, which obviously it takes a very long time to read those. And then the next amount of time, I would say, would be spent watching the featurettes, because while the movies might be 2.5 hours long, you know, the featurettes are like, they might have one that's the same length of the movie and then 10 more that are each like 45 minutes. So for me, you know, like watching those was like, probably the research takes me longer than the actual writing.
Yeah. I was, I don't know if you know this, but behind the scenes, Zach was asking me to like tabulate, like, he was trying to get a sense of whether these have been worth it for New Rockstars. Oh. And in my opinion, just based off of we get to do them, it makes it worth it. But like, we also have to think,
impossible
like,
to quantify.
Has it been a smart budgetary move? And it has been. The answer is like, just like the value of doing these, being able to deliver these to our viewers who have been asking for it for years and years and years. And also just like, on the views alone, it's been worth it, and we love doing it, but it is exhausting, and we can't do this every week of the year. But I was like, well, just talking to you, and I feel like it must be for each of the ones we've done. Your part of it seems to have been somewhere between 7 and 8 work days. So rough, like, correct me if I'm wrong, at least 60 hours of work.
Yeah,
for each one for
you? Because I think each one probably took me about 2 weeks from start to finish, and that's like, that includes reading time.
Some more.
But like reading time is hard to, you know. It's hard to, like it's very easy for me to be like, okay, I have X amount of video to watch, but how fast a reader I am, do I have to read some sections twice? I would say like from start to finish, like maybe 8 days, I would say, like including like a weekend or something. But yeah, like if I wasn't working on weekends, probably 2 weeks total per video.
Which is a lot. My part of it, when I look at Gina's notes and look at the draft she's written, I probably put in another between 10 and 15 hours of work, because I want to know it too. Like I've read these books, it's been a while, and there's like certain research you bring up from like additional materials, interviews Rolling has done that I'm not aware of, special features you've seen that I haven't seen, and I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. So anytime I find something that I didn't know, I'll go look it up on my own because I also want to know it.
Yeah.
So that ends up taking time, and I'll reword things. Sometimes I'll move things around. I'll sometimes just like bullet things out differently. Like it was really important to me to get this like Horcrux timeline, which you had further on in the script. I think I moved it to a different part.
I think yours was more thorough. But yeah, if sometimes if we seem grumpy at all the angry comments at us, this is why. We spend a lot of time on these. The editors spend a lot of time on these.
And the editors have to kind of know all this too. They divide and conquer with like a squad of freelance editors who work on shifts overnight.
Yeah.
They cut the raw footage up
Luckily,
into
they're
sections.
also Harry Potter fans, because if
And
you were
they're Harry
going
Potter
into
nerds.
this and like not and just like, hey, this is a fun editing job, what's Harry Potter? I mean, it would be crazy. But luckily, they're like, yeah, I know exactly who Bertha Jorkins is.
And then they'll have follow-up questions for us. Like, as they're trying to do this research on their end to have a visual to show for it. Gina spends a lot of time trying to find exact page numbers. And we have to get on the same page of like what version of the book we're looking at. Like from the American Scholastic print edition versus the UK distributed
because
version.
they change certain things in there. Like in the early books, they put like, oh, I'm going to go to the bathroom. In the British version, go to the loo. And then eventually they were like, screw it, Americans can figure out what the loo is.
Yeah. So it's a ton of work. And then really for any New Rockstars video, we've gotten pretty efficient over the years of like knowing how long our videos are, how long it takes to budget for writing, for shooting, for QC, for export, all that stuff. For these over hour long. I mean, Order of the Phoenix was an hour 20 long.
Yeah.
Like normally you do those once in a blue moon. Like our Deadpool and Wolverine breakdown, that was like our biggest video of this past year. And that is like one video. To have 8 back to back, it's like, it really just starts to snowball in a way that we don't even anticipate. And it's like the Gemino curse where everything just starts to stack in a way that like, whoa, and we have the next one, and my brain is, and your brain is spread across multiple of these at the same time.
I will say, like, sometimes people in the comments are like, I'm surprised you didn't bring this up, and it's like, we had to cut it for time.
Right.
Because there were some scripts that I said to Erik, and I was like, this is 42 pages. For context, an average like half-hour episode of TV, a script for TV is like between 22 and 28 pages. And I was sending Erik like 42, 45 page scripts for these. So some stuff, like when people are like, oh, you guys didn't notice this or you didn't bring this up, it's stuff that we cut because we have to at some point cut it down so that we don't just have a 2-hour long video.
So that New Rockstars can still function as a business, really.
Exactly. But I guarantee you, whatever you're like, you didn't notice this. We noticed it.
And for context, 42 pages of a draft would have been a 2-hour long breakdown.
Yes.
Which, if this were all we did, we would love to release that. But we also have to like make other videos, cover other properties. We're covering Skeleton Crew. We were covering Agatha. We were covering movie trailers that were coming out. We were covering Craven, everyone's favorite movie. You know, so it's just we're trying to do a lot at the same time. And this was a big test on our limits. And the fact that we were able to get it wrapped and it will all be out by the end of the year is like kind of miraculous.
Yeah, maybe someday you'll get the 4-hour director's cut of the scripts. Evan?
Kamina Koi asking, when did we start working on them? Probably after Agatha was finished, right?
It was while Agatha was
happening. So October, November. I mean, and they're just coming out now, you know?
Yeah, because you guys let me know about this like months ago.
Because we had started thinking about it like even back in the summer.
I think in the summer, and then of course like I would take breaks to help out with other stuff, but I think I started rereading the books in the summertime.
We I think like Gina started actually putting, like we created the Google documents for them sometime in September. Because we announced it as Agatha was ending at the beginning of November, at the end of October.
And we already had probably two of the scripts written, maybe.
Anne Marie C in the chat starting a hashtag release the Gina cut.
It's gonna be a lot of like, here's how they did this scene, because like my like writer brain is like, how do you do an effect like that? But maybe someone doesn't care about that.
Before we get into questions and theories about how the show might play out, I wanted to ask this final question from Darian423, which is a little bit more, fun and broad. What part of Hogwarts or the Wizarding World would you like to explore? Like, as a person, like, if you could just dive into the world yourself, what part of the world would you want to most like run around in?
I'm going ham in Hogsmeade. I'm going to I mean like there's a reason that the kids in school like all love it. Like I'm eating everything in Honeydukes. I'm going to like all of the every place in
Get
Hogsmeade.
real butter beer, right?
Yeah.
Whatever
Oh,
that is.
yeah.
The Universal Parks were smart to turn Hogsmeade. They kind of mixed Diagon Alley and Hogsmeade.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, it's dope as hell. I've been to the Universal Park so many times, and I'm just like, there's the Hogwarts Express. Oh my god! But yeah, I would love to walk around Hogsmeade.
Yeah, I like when you go ride, I think the Forbidden Journey ride, you walk through Hogwarts. So you go through Dumbledore's office, the Defense Against Dark Arts classroom,
Very
the
cool.
herbology greenhouse. That line is better than the ride itself.
Oh,
Yeah.
Easy.
Easily.
Yeah.
So cool. And I believe it's the headmaster's office where he makes it snow, or is it in the Great Hall or the Defense Against Dark Arts? I can't
maybe the
remember.
Great Hall.
Yeah.
But then you board the ride in the Room of Requirement.
Which would be my other option. I want to see what that room can do. I want, a million Keanu Reeveses in his prime in that room for me.
I'm trying to think. I've been to.
I need it. I require it in the Room of Requirement.
I've been to Oxford's campus twice. Once in 2008, once in 2018, and walked up the steps that they used leading into the Great Hall in Philosopher's Stone. So I felt like I kind of explored Hogwarts or where they shot it in real life.
Yeah.
I'm super excited for the new attraction they're building where it's like their Rise of the Resistance type Ministry of Magic. They just released on YouTube today or somewhere on Twitter. I saw like the set they built for it. We've seen the concept art. I cannot wait to do that one because the Ministry of Magic I think is one of the coolest sets that they built. It's another reason why I love Order of the Phoenix. Like they built this awesome set and they used it in such a cool way in that film.
Yeah. Again, I want to see like the full-on weird rooms in the Department of Mysteries. I want a baby-headed Death Eater flailing around.
Baby-headed Death Eater, the brains that attack Ron.
Yeah, I want all that
fun.
weird stuff.
Yeah. Should we do just a quick check into the corner of comments?
Sure.
Let's talk about the tomatoes. So we promised it in our Order of the Phoenix breakdown. Gina spotted this detail in the Dursleys' refrigerator where Vernon has tomatoes in the fridge.
And Erik left it in, which
I left it in
to be
'cause
fair,
I agree with her.
I was half convinced he was just going to take it out, but I saw it and I was like, and you do not put tomatoes in the fridge. Listen, Evan and I are both from Jersey. There is a reason why like Jersey Fresh is a slogan. Their tomatoes are so good. If you've never been there, you do not understand. And you do not refrigerate tomatoes. And people have been fighting us on this online. But just a quick Google search will tell you everything you need to know. I promise we're not insane. Just Google, do you refrigerate tomatoes?
This is a really bad time to let Gina know that I don't like tomatoes.
Oh,
which is
Evan!
okay. I have refrigerated tomatoes before
And
for
they're
years of my
gross.
life, and they wilt and wrinkle so quickly.
They get
and
mealy.
now I don't. And a lot of people are like, it's one of these things where you feel like you're in the Matrix, where people are in the comments are like, listen to these idiots who don't refrigerate their tomatoes. Like, yeah don't they know? And they're all these dum-dums are connecting with each other. And then you have like King of the Dum-Dums who's like, I've worked in a restaurant.
Yes.
And we always refrigerate our tomatoes.
Which also-
and I'm like, either you're a liar or you're in a country with weird food safety issues.
Yeah.
And now I'm wondering, does the UK have different, is it just like you have to, import all your agriculture because you have a cold country.
Yeah.
And we have a warm country with a robust agricultural market.
That is
where
a
we can get
great
fresh
point.
tomatoes.
Like a lot of the comments were coming from Brits, and maybe it is like with
might
how
be
they're
it.
shipped. If they're shipped cold, it might make sense why you need to keep them cold. But we don't. Also, by the way, my second job was working in a restaurant.
Yep.
So you don't pull that with me.
I've worked in food prep. My first job was working at a summer camp where we had to have like fresh produce come in because we were making stuff. And tomatoes we did not refrigerate.
But again, before you yell at us about something, just Google it.
Just Google
That's
it.
all I'm asking. If you Google it and we are wrong, fine. Then you can be like, hey, I Googled this, you're wrong. You will not find a Google search out there which tells you to refrigerate tomato.
You might see some that say it doesn't matter, but if you can leave it on the countertop, you should. Some people say, well, you could get fruit flies if you do that. Well, sure, then just put it in a bag or on or under like some kind of covering or something like that, but they should not be in the fridge. You're gonna get moldy.
I eat so
wilted.
many tomatoes. 90% of my blood is tomato. I'm Italian. I eat so many tomatoes. tomatoes in a week, I have never once gotten fruit flies from, unless you're leaving them out for a month. I eat so many tomatoes just in a day. I eat them for breakfast. I bring them to bagel day to cut on top of my bagel. I'm a weirdo.
Tomatoes are wonderful. I know in LA we do have like fruit fly season, like around June, July. Sometimes like, hey, you can just have bananas on your countertop, and then within 12 hours, fruit flies are there. The issue, I just am fascinated by this person who claims they worked in a restaurant and said that they never. I think what it is you worked as like a food prepper at some weird restaurant that Gordon Ramsay hasn't gotten to yet. And when he gets there, he's going to throw all your shit in the garbage because you refrigerated your tomatoes. And that's what he's going to say to you.
Yeah, or maybe like or I could see like fast food restaurants doing it because they like, you know, they're just taught like, oh, preserve it longer, blah, 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 whatever, but you don't refrigerate tomatoes, guys.
You shouldn't.
The hill I will die on. The tomato hill I will die on.
I'm trying to think if there was what was the thing that we discovered about, who got the first Felix Felicis that Slughorn
Yes,
gave out.
that was a big topic of conversation. Because we hypothesized that it was maybe either Snape that crafted the perfect draft of the Living Death and got the bottle from Slughorn, or Tom Riddle or Lily Evans. It's never definitively stated. I think each, you know, like I saw someone comment that like obviously it's Snape because he's the one who wrote the proper brewing in the textbook, but he could have workshopped that over a period of time. There's no definitive answer. I think Erik's theory that like it could have been Voldemort and that's how he found out about the Horcruxes is just as solid as anything else.
I think it's completely valid that it was a young Severus Snape. The reason why I think we should look at Lily Evans is that like it seemed like a pop quiz that Slughorn gave this class, and assuming they used the same textbook from the 40s, or no, it would have been from the 70s, right, when Lily was in school. Snape would not have had time to experiment to make it 13 beans instead of 12, or to crush the bean instead of cut it. Like he would have had to have Slughorn only gave them an hour. So you have to nail it the first time.
I personally think it was just some rando student, because I think if it was Lily or Snape, he would have been like, only one student in history. By the way, Harry, it was your mom. Good job.
You think he would have brought it up?
I think he would have brought it up, or he would have been like, only one student in history. Hey, it was your old potions teacher, Snape. I think he wouldn't have said if it was Tom Riddle.
Which is why I think it was Tom Riddle.
But like I think most likely Tom Riddle or because Slughorn was a teacher for so long, some random Joe Schmo like made it, and he just wasn't like, Joe Schmo made this. Congrats.
It was Quinnog Jones, captain of the Holyhead Harpies.
I mean, that dude loves to brag about knowing people. So if it was anyone of note, I think he would have been like, only one person in history has gotten this, and it was my good buddy, Sting.
All right, let's get into some questions about the show and how we think it might do some make changes or not. A lot of questions about casting. You know, we've answered a lot of questions about casting in the past live here. So I've, kind of selected some different ones. This is a very interesting take. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Alicia VP16 saying, cast Zac Efron as Voldemort because he did such a great job playing Ted Bundy. Thoughts on that?
Nope.
You're not gonna get a support from me. I actually think.
Nope.
I actually like the J.K. Rowling's rule that, like, for the original series, that it was only UK actors, and because she felt like the accents were more believable. I think, like, listen, there's fabulous British actors who do American accents all the time, which half the time I'm like, that guy's British, what? And also the actors in the movie aren't even doing their own accents, but I do think that casting fabulous British thespians whose personal lives don't overshadow their on-screen. Not saying that Zac Efron is like out there doing taking panty shots every night or anything, but I just think like the sort of the less like an American audience knows about these people and their personal lives, the more we can see them. Like, I don't think anyone was like, oh, Michael Gambon, remember that time he was at that bar and got, like, no one really knew anything about the three actors cast as kids because they were kids.
Yeah.
And I think just, like, keep casting really good British actors in these roles. That's what I would love to see.
Yeah. I mean, in that vein, Bean Bowl saying, are y'all hoping for a more Richard Harris silly/wise or Michael Gambon bold/aggressive Dumbledore?
Great
Maybe
question.
a gradual shift over the show versus the stark change in the movies. There's been a lot of rumors about who might play Dumbledore. I don't know if any of them are real. It seems like Deadline or Hollywood Reporter, whichever was, ran with some very tenuous
don't take
I
anything.
think Mark Rylance has been approached for Dumbledore. I don't think that's I think that's pretty solid. Like there, I mean, it hasn't been inked, but the offer has been made for Mark Rylance.
Yeah, I think like both actors are so good. I don't necessarily think either of them nailed the book version of Dumbledore.
Yeah.
I think that Richard Harris, his approach, he's given interviews about this, was like he's over 100 years old, so he's gonna talk slowly, and he was approaching it as like a human who is over 100 years old, and also obviously Richard Harris, very sick for one of those movies. So he's playing it sort of as an old man. And then Michael Gambon came in, didn't want to do the same thing that he did. So he played it with his frenetic energy. And to me, Dumbledore was always a wise old weirdo in the books. A wise old weirdo who says nonsense for no reason, is the smartest person in the room, although he like doesn't seem like it. And so I think there is room for someone to bring a new interpretation that Michael Gambon famously didn't read the books. I think someone who like really studies those books and says like, oh yeah, he's saying gibberish while he's introducing students. Why is he doing this? He's a little bit kooky, but he's the craziest smart person in the room. That's sort of how I see him. I would love to see someone bring a new energy to it.
I like Rylance as a choice because he had that side of him that we saw both in Bridge of Spies and in Ready Player One and in Don't Look Up, of just this kind of aloof, like goofy weirdo.
Yeah.
Who has a bunch of secrets.
Yeah.
And I think that is what you need Dumbledore to be.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Moonrise Andrews saying, would you guys be down for Jude Law reprising the role?
Nope.
Wow. Quick answer from Erik there.
Nothing against Jude Law. I like him. He's not the age of Dumbledore here. He played Valiant, young Dumbledore in the Fantastic Beasts films, the second two of them, but that's not what they're doing here.
I think he could play a different role. Like I think I'm trying to think of who would be around his age. Like I think he's too old for it, but I think he would be a great Sirius Black or something like that.
That's exactly where my mind
because
was.
he has that sort of rock star charm that they wanted. But yeah, I think like they should try and age them appropriately, and I do think he's too young for Dumbledore.
Can I just make I'm gonna tweet this at some point over the next few months.
Tweet it.
I know, God, I'm trying to leave Twitter, but I think it needs to be said. Warner and HBO need to, from the outset, tell audiences and make it clear to the young actors that they cast on the show that they will not be sticking with these young actors throughout the whole duration of the series.
Oh, okay.
I don't think they need to be looking for a young Hermione, a young Harry, and a young Ron at age 9 or whatever who are going to devote the next 12 years of their lives to this project. You have no idea what's going to happen with these kids over the course of their lives. They should sign contracts for maybe 1 or 2 seasons and then reconsider and be open to recasting. I think that House of the Dragon really benefited. They made some great casting choices with the 2 leads. It happened mid-season, which is very odd. But I think maybe you cast a Harry, Ron, and Hermione for 1 and 2, season 1 and 2. And then once you get into season 3, you have season 3, season 4, different cast. And then season 5, 6, 7, a whole different cast. And that way you can change things up. You can bring in new actors. I guarantee you, people at Warner, you're going to save a lot of money from those actors renegotiate. Otherwise, they're going to renegotiate. And by the time you get to 2035 or whatever, you're going to be paying them $1 million an episode plus. And nothing against paying actors what they deserve. But I'm in favor of getting new actors in there who get huge spotlights and huge chances to prove themselves. And then maybe you pay casting directors more to aid in that scramble every 2 years. I think you got lucky with Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson that they were so good. Yeah. But I don't think it's going to take longer to make these shows. You're not going to have just 10 years. It's going to take longer than 10 years.
Yeah,
to make
and you
these
should
shows.
be open to having them running. And I just listen, I've worked on a lot of shows with a lot of kids, and kids who are 10, who are great actors at 10, a year later they might suck. Like they might have become self-aware, like just more like self-conscious, and they might. So it is very rare that you have like 10-year-old or 11-year-old or 12-year-old actors who stay good or even improve for 10 years.
Yeah.
I think like my soapbox that I will go on is like, get out of your head that the new actors have to look like the old actors. I've seen a lot of people saying Adam Driver for Snape. And the only reason they're saying that is because he looks kind of like the physical description of Snape, but he also kind of looks like Alan Rickman. And I think like just get it out of your head. Just like give people a chance. Do not do what everyone does with every major franchise, which is, this isn't who I thought would be good. Yeah. There are so many people who go into casting something. Just give them a chance, even if when they are cast, they don't look like what you think they look like. They don't look like the book description. I guarantee you the casting directors know what they are doing.
Yeah, I just think these characters fundamentally change book to book in some cases, especially the supporting cast.
And we know so much more about them in the last book than we do about no one except for Alan Rickman going into these movies knew that knew Snape's story. And the only reason he knew was because Rowling told him. And it's just like now, we once we know more about them, they don't. But just like every huge franchise, someone is like, actually, she's supposed to have, like, Draco Malfoy, that poor kid had to bleach his hair every week for 10 years. That kid has dark ass hair. And if you saw him, you would be like, no, Malfoy's supposed to have blonde hair. I guarantee you, once it makes it to the screen and once they inhabit those characters, just give them a chance. No matter what race they are, like, just give them a chance. Please don't add to the discourse.
And I think you can take some of the pressure off of that, and you can mix it up more season to season if you just commit to 1 to 2 year contracts for each generation of kids. Like, then you could have like the middle seasons where you do have different races, and it's not a big deal, or it will be a big deal to some people.
How many of you remember that Dario Najarez was played by like 3 different actors in like,
approach it like Netflix
Thrones
has with The Crown. The Crown does 2-year stints. We've had 3 different queens. And by the final seasons of The Crown, it was pretty cool to see Felicity Jones and Olivia, what's her name?
Coleman.
Olivia Colman and then Imelda Staunton. And there was kind of moments where they would have flashbacks and have the different actresses in scenes together and in dream sequences together. You can do that and have like the 4 different Harrys over the run of the series. The 4 different Hermiones, the 4 different Rons. You can allow different actors to take different interpretations of them, and you can avoid the Ginny problem. Because it's gonna sound like I'm blaming Bonnie Wright. Bonnie Wright did a great job in the first 2 seasons as Ginny, but like clearly she was not right for the role. And from the rest of the films. And Steve Kloves just gave up on trying to write the character as she is in the book. The character in the book is one of the best characters that Rowling wrote.
Truly my favorite. They did not give her
the character. And it's like they're afraid to try to write challenging material for Bonnie Wright. And it is awkward in these final films. It is like they hate the character.
Also, if you're gonna develop a romance between characters, at some point they have to have chemistry. Like, obviously when she was cast as a little kid, they weren't like, do a chemistry test with this 12-year-old actor. But like by the time they got to 18, you want them to have chemistry if they're each other's soulmates.
Actually, let's end on that. A Clara asking what character deserves the most redemption in the show. Ginny will always be mine, they say.
Yeah.
You guys are saying Ginny. Anyone else that you'd want to see?
I will say, and this is not like, please don't, come at me for like being an angry feminist. But to me, the 2 characters who were done the dirtiest were Ginny and Tonks. Because Ginny evolves from like a shy 9-year-old when we first meet her to this like badass, just cursing everything in sight, just the most capable Quidditch player, the most capable at spell casting, one of the most capable members of Dumbledore's army. To the point where you're like, how could Harry not love her? Look at how awesome she is. She becomes a professional Quidditch player. She's awesome. And she was done dirty. And I think same with Tonks. I think honestly, like a little bit of this is in the book where like the first time we meet her, she's like clumsy and weird and changing her hair color, and then she falls in love with a dude and is like, I'm keeping my hair brown and all my interesting character bits are getting erased.
Yep.
I think there's a way to make her fall in love with Lupin and still be a badass Auror. Like in the books, there's a little bit of her being like, what's all this? Like my dad was messy. This house is too clean. Like she's a weirdo. And all of that is erased the second she falls in love with Lupin and gets lovesick. And I think these two cool-ass, weird-ass, badass female characters were done dirty.
Yeah, I agree. Tonks and Ginny for sure, and Ron. I think Ron, they like misunderstood the character in some of these middle films. Deathly Hallows Part 1.
Absolutely.
They insert this insane romantic jealousy that is only there in traces in the book. They make it seem like the whole reason he left was out of jealousy of Harry and Hermione. No, he leaves out of fear for his family. He leaves out of valid frustration with how long this is taking.
Yeah.
And then he says, oh, I see, you choose him then. And it's more of a commentary on how Ron has always felt jealous of Harry being the chosen one. Not that he thinks Hermione's into him. And Cloves' interpretation of that is bizarre. I'm very defensive against it. And then Ron is not as much of a prat in the book as he is in the film. So
he's outright cruel. Like you'll see this in our you'll see this in our Deathly Hallows breakdown. But like in part 1, before they ever find the Horcrux, he's like ready to like hit Creature with like a metal like pan, and he's like saying they should kill these 2 Death Eaters, which like is only hinted at in the book. It's very bizarre. I think truly they were like, yeah, let's force a love triangle and make Ron kind of a jerk. And then once they get the like there's a part where he like physically shoves Hermione off of him, which like it like literally made me groan out loud. And I know you can be like, well, Horcrux, blah 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 blah, but it's like, don't lay hands on that sweet smart woman.
Right. Also, Ron is wearing the Horcrux the whole time in the book, and he never lets it take him to that point.
Yeah.
The Ron we know would have been like taken to a dark place, but not to the point where he's going to be physically violent.
Yeah, in the book, he's grumpy because he's hungry. He's not shoving Hermione. Yeah. Like, it's weird.
They take it to weird places, and like, Ron... Like, the kiss in Deathly Hallows is supposed to be motivated by Ron saying, what about the house elves? We have to warn the house elves to escape. Not just getting drenched with Voldemort swamp water. Yeah. Like, that was such a weird moment where it's just they get wet, and they're like, yeah, it's like a beach rather than we're in a sewer. Yeah. And we get poopy water on ourselves from an angry Voldemort wave.
Yeah, he proves that he's grown as a person more in the books than in the movie.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, before we wrap it up here, I just want to say, Ellie, if you're watching... Thanks for watching all these movies and watching all these breakdowns. Hopefully they stood the test of time for you. How about we wrap it up there, folks?
We'll leave it there. Well, that's it for today. We're so glad we were able to do another one of these Behind the Breakdowns. Thank you for bearing with us. We've just had such a crazy few weeks here at New Rockstars. But we will have one more of these on the other side of the holidays where we talk about our breakdowns of Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Part 2.
Start thinking of your questions as soon as you watch them.
Yeah. And this has been like an experimental thing that Evan has kind of like come up with the framing of going behind the breakdown, and it was really fun to be able to do these, and we'd like to try it again next time we do a rewatch series like this. They've been a lot of fun to be able to like take you guys behind the scenes. And
I promise I'll yell at you less about tomatoes on the next one.
Gotta come up with like a little like segment like tomato
Jersey Fresh.
Jersey Fresh.
All right, that's when I get Jersey Fresh with our audience. I get fresh with yous about the tomatoes. Hey, gabagool.
I made a mistake by saying Felicity Jones was in The Crown. It's Claire Foy. My mistake.
Oh.
I got them mixed up. I'm sorry. But yes, we'll leave it there. Subscribe to The Breakroom. Follow Gina at Gina Ippy.
Yeah.
On all socials. Follow me at EA Voss. And give us a follow on Twitch. We're always doing live stuff over there. And follow Breakroom at NR everywhere.
And as always, any angry letters, you can send them directly to Evan.
That's right. Directly to Evan.
My mailbox is so full.
And that's it.